the vocabulary, the glossary. It just kind of comes automatically with a glossary that you can set up, and either the professor can add items to the glossary, or the students. It can become a collaborative process, which works great for languages, but could also work for nursing if you have a key set of vocabulary you want them to learn. So I just make them responsible for adding a certain number of words. By the end of the semester, everyone has to have added 200 words. And it's nice, you could just go into the history and see, okay, I could click on your name and say, Joe Smith added 133 words this semester. So that's nice, and you can just look at their history. Same thing with wikis. I've never used a wiki before, but it's a tool that I really like, and they're all capable of that. But I'm enjoying. I think the students are kind of enjoying it, even though it's a lot of work. They're enjoying, I think, seeing how far they've come throughout the semester, realizing that collaboratively they've written 30 pages or so. Also, one of the things, the gradebook, I think, is something most of us probably are going to use the most in these systems. What I really like about the gradebook in Moodle is that each category can be customized to how grades are figured. You can either say, if it's your exams, so if you don't want your exams to all be worth 100 points, but you still want to average, so if they get a 90% and 85%, you want them to average. You don't want it to, have a total of the points. You can say, my exam category is going to be an average, but my homework category is going to be a sum of the points. You can configure that for each category, which I have found really helpful because not all of my tests are the same amount. I don't total 1,000 points for the semester like some people do. I really want a weighted score, and sometimes if I want to drop an assignment, that's what I'm always afraid of. I'm going to ruin my 1,000-point total. So I really like the way that the gradebook can really, within each category, can be configured a completely different way. I really like that. And then also, it's really easy to add activities. There's a drop-down menu for each week. Just what do you want to add this week? Just drop down, add it. I really like that.
And the next question, from a purely instructional perspective, what do you see as the top 3 features of using the LMS that you've been testing?
Well, I'll go back to my wiki. No, we did the...
You're right.
We're doing
The barriers.
All right. From a purely instructional perspective, what were the barriers for you or your students, and how did you overcome these?
Okay, I'll go back to my wikis on this. I think just the wiki for my students was hard. I took it for granted that students knew what a wiki was. So I had to do a lot of describing. I mean, I had to eventually just reserve a lab and do an entry together and just say, okay, this is how you make a wiki. And I didn't get as complicated as I wanted to with linking back within wikis because I thought that was going to overwhelm them. But I think there is, if you wanted to use, and this is probably true for all of ours, if we wanted to really dive deeper into the capabilities of these systems, I think we need to realize there are going to be some learning curves on our students' part. I think we take for granted that we think they're the technology generation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they know they don't come out of the womb writing wikis. So I think that was one of the things, but I really had to take them by the hand and get them used to saying, okay, you are responsible for writing wikis, and logging in doesn't mean you wrote it. I can see what you wrote. So getting them used to the idea that they're collaboratively writing something, but I can still monitor everything. So I think that's been the biggest challenge for me.
Okay, I think I just wanted to mention one more thing that I liked about Haiku is that when you make an assignment, you can tell it to go to the gradebook, add a grade to the gradebook, and also to the calendar. And I had never used the calendar feature in Blackboard before, and I really used it a lot. And I hope the students are using it because I think it's really nice. It shows when the dates of the assignments, when they're due, and when they expire, and that type of thing. But some of the barriers were that, like the Dropbox, I would have liked to have been able to pull down for that assignment all the students' files at the same time. They all had a Word document. I like to pull them down in one folder. So, but I was talking to Alan. He said we can fix that in the future. So, and then the survey issue is one thing that I need to talk to him about. That is, you can ask one question, like you can poll the students, but you can't ask, like, do a midterm survey and ask them questions about how the class is going. You'd have to ask individual questions and then look at the results that way. But I just did it in SurveyMonkey. You know, we just have workarounds for a lot of these things. None of them were going to work exactly the way we wanted anyway. I think and then some of the reporting features about the grade book, I'd like to be able to see averages of a specific assignment, that type of thing, overall averages, which we don't have right now, but again, that's something that they're going to be looking at too. So they've got a nice feature where you can add comments, and they'll add new features if more people want them. It's kind of a polling type of thing. It comes up to the top of the list, and that's the next thing they'll add to their learning management system.
I'm not sure if this is a barrier as much as it's complete user error on my part and the students, but there was one thing that continually got in the way. There seemed to be an extra step. There was one counterintuitive piece that seemed to be an extra step when attaching a document. So you'd have to browse for it, and then your computer files open, and then you select that, and then in some cases you had to click attach file, and some cases you didn't. So it was confusing, but there was always an icon that says that the students submitted something. Sometimes it was attached, sometimes it wasn't. But I think it was, I was having a lot of students navigate both systems, so I think it's different in 7 than it was in 9. And so when they would upload something for another course, there was a set of clicks that they were familiar with there that weren't necessarily the same set of procedures to get into Blackboard 9. That was the only thing that really tripped any of us up. I would propose that the grade center be the size of the entire screen, because it only ever let me see 16 students or something when I made it super small. But I'd like to see the whole screen as the grade book, so I don't have to scroll down to get to the S's and T's and the alphabet kind of thing. But other than that, that's it. Next.
The only complaint, I didn't have any trouble at all with Sakai. It seemed very straightforward and easy to use. The only complaint I got from students was that when I first set it up, I changed absolutely nothing. I just had the default Sakai. And there are probably 27 little tools along the left-hand edge of the screen that you could use if you wanted to, but I was only using 6 of them or something. And they found that very confusing because they kept clicking on things and they didn't know what they meant and they didn't know what they did, and the answer was they didn't do anything because I wasn't using those tools. So I discovered that for each course you can adjust the appearance, the list of things students see, and I just basically unchecked all the things I wasn't using and just left the ones, and after that everybody was happy. But I would say they were confused at the beginning, and so it does take some customization in order to make it simple as Haiku, I guess, so that it doesn't look complicated, because there's a lot of bells and whistles on the screen when you first launch it.
How would you describe the learning curve for creating and maintaining your course?
Well, for Sakai, I thought it was not very different from Blackboard in terms of the kinds of things you do. I mean, I'm probably not a great case in the sense that I don't use many of the fancy features of the thing, but I thought it was quite straightforward. I didn't have any trouble at all. And I especially loved the document management feature where I didn't have to actually go through a web browser to do every single thing, but I could do some of it just on my desktop and in my own email program and so on.
It was not difficult at all. I'm sure all of us would say the same thing. If it could just buy me more time. It just gave me more time everything's there. There are tutorials for everything. There are answers to all the questions. I just needed more time. So that's, I think, was the biggest issue there.
I don't think it was difficult at all. It's probably one of the simplest systems that
Yeah.
Haiku was, so it was pretty easy. Set up a course in a couple hours, and then so a couple of the faculty that never put anything, I think, on any kind of learning management system in our department, and they did it also and didn't have that many difficulties, I think.
As far